Welcome to Heroes and Droids, your guide to movies and TV shows about superheroes, sci-fi. What happened?
Wait.
Oh!
Is this the wrong show? Oh, sorry, guys.
Action
Sorry.
from Marvel and DC to Star Wars and Star Trek, from James Bond to Fast and Furious. We'll review the theatrical films and streaming delights you care about most. Trainwreck!
Oh,
All right.
I'm disappointed. I thought it was going to be Pedro Pascal.
I tried.
How dare you?
Can't you tell the hair and makeup? I tried.
Folks, sorry. We are not reviewing Mandalorian. What we were reviewing is Star Wars The Bad Batch, Episode 7, called Battle Scars. I am Doc Rotten, and joining me tonight are the crew, starting off with the one and only Slattman. How you doing, sir?
Good. We might not be reviewing The Mandalorian, but oh boy, it's as good as The Mandalorian.
It might very well be. I love your shirt, by the way.
Thank you.
All right. Also joining us is the international cosplay queen and podcasting rockstar, Vanessa.
Hi.
How you doing?
Not the Mandalorian. Sorry.
Nope.
Doing my best here, guys.
Yep.
You're the Van DeLorean.
The Fandalorian. All right.
The Fandalorian. The Vandalorian.
Speaking of DeLoreans, also joining us is award-winning filmmaker
What?
Christopher G. Moore.
Doc, we need to get back to the future.
I'm sorry, Marty. It's your kids. They're in trouble. How did we go there?
Your clone is in trouble. Omega's in trouble.
The clone. We have to go back.
Back to the
Long time ago.
Back to the far, far away.
All right. Good night. See ya. We'll be all right. We're going to review Star Wars Bad Batch Episode 7. We're going to give our first impressions of the show. Then we're going to be spoiler free then, and then we're going to dive into a discussion about it, which we will get into spoilers because we're going to talk about things that you saw, and we're going to talk about theories and whatnot and where it's going to go next. And then we're going to wrap things up with our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. But let's take a look at the card, shall we? Yes. Battle Scars, June 11th, directed by Brad Rao and Sal Ruiz. Vanessa, help me. Ruiz. That's what I said. Written by Jennifer Corbett and Dave Filoni. Cast includes D. Bradley Baker, who is the busiest man in all of animation. Michelle Ang, Matthew Wood, and Ray Perlman. Synopsis is: as they traverse a decommissioned medical facility, the Bad Batch encounter an unexpected threat.
That's one way to put it.
It's a little misleading, but it's not untrue.
It's a lot misleading.
It's concise. It's concise.
All right, Slattman, you're up first. What was your first impression of Episode 7?
Man, I hope D. Bradley Baker is getting the paycheck of like 5 to 6 people's worth of voice lines.
Does it work that way, or is he hired?
Probably not, but
voices?
He does such a fantastic job voicing like 50 billion characters in the same show.
Mm-hmm.
I loved this episode. I think, building off of last week, this is amazing. It's up there with probably the first episode with me. I absolutely loved it. Some of our questions were answered probably a little faster than some of us predicted. And but I think that's okay, because I think we got over it, without spoiling too much, we got over a major hurdle that we knew that we would have to, that our crew was going to have to face eventually, and they did it in such a good way. And we'll talk about it more when we get into spoilers, because I don't know how spoiler free we want to be, considering how much earlier we're recording this than we usually do. But there's so much that they've done with the communication and just the looks on our characters' eyes when they come to certain realizations, and especially in that one scene with like the look on Omega's eyes, just man, and then that it pays off so well in the end. And this show had me both hyped and excited and screaming at my TV and crying and everything all in 24 minutes.
Yeah.
I loved it, and I cannot wait to hear Christopher's 10 things, because
Yeah.
there are some really cool ones in this episode.
There's some
and
doozies. There's some doozies.
I would like to say, ask me later what I thought the unexpected threat was going to be. I don't want to say it because
Okay.
it might be a spoiler.
Oh
But
yeah. I know what you're gonna say. All right. Vanessa, you're up next. What was your first impression of episode 7?
I told you so. That's all I
You did.
gotta say. And I'm so happy about it. This episode was phenomenal. The last few ones that we've been getting, I mean, I've enjoyed them all, obviously, but I'm sure to Chris's delight, the last 3 have been just action, a ragtag group of people just on action adventures, and it has been so much fun. Yeah. And you know, Chris is right. It's been emotional, and it's just been a great ride to be on. And I'm loving the character development. I'm loving the stories. I'm loving finding out more about what's happening during this time period and kind of pulling our other characters into it and wondering, you know, what are they doing during this time? What are they doing? And how is this person going to come around? And, you know, and the thing that really struck me in this one was, you know, we haven't really, well, I don't want to get too spoilery before we get into it, so I won't say that just yet. But I'm really, really loving it. Omega is amazing. She's really, really come into her own, especially in this episode. And I told you so.
Told you. You win. You love it when you love it when a
I don't
plan
always
comes
get it.
together.
I don't always get it.
All right, Christopher G. Moore, you're up next. What's your first impression of episode 7?
This is my favorite episode so far in this series. I think this is the episode that fires on all cylinders, and like Vanessa said, this is they're doing the A-team thing. So as long as they keep going on missions and getting put in peril, I'm all about that. But yeah, I think everything really works well in this. And there's without giving anything away, there's almost like a horror movie aspect to the end of it, you know? So there's just so many great things about it that really worked. You know, and I think, you know, I guess as we're progressing, I mean, I've really grown to love Omega as a character. I think now that she's like a part of the team, and then, you know, of course, Wrecker. I think this is a Wrecker centric episode without saying much, and I loved every element of it. And I will agree with the Slattman is that this episode had me on the edge of my seat. There's parts where I was like cringing. I was like, no, don't do that. Oh, get out of that. I was really worried for the characters. And at the same time, there was like one moment I got emotional. So I was like, wow, that's a that's a velocicoaster, you know, of a episode that can keep you in, you know, in such an element of suspense and emotion and all that stuff wrapped up in a ball. So yeah, I love this episode. I think to me it's the standout episode of the season so far.
Yeah, I will concur. I think along with the first episode, which I really loved, this is right up there with it. You know, I talked about like last episode, maybe not as much, but this one, oh yeah, right now it's just like all the character building that we've had in the previous episodes is starting to pay off in big time, because there are moments in here that, you know, those relationships are put to a test, and you see it. And what really amazed me is, and Slattman, you touched on this, is not only the body language of the art, but the voice acting, of course, as always, but the facial expressions in this one. And I think you nailed it when you said it was in the eyes. I didn't really consider that before you said it, but there are moments in this when, you know, everything everything is summed up in the eyes, the horror, the determination, the sorrow, the love. There's all these things in here. And yeah, in a maybe in a Disney movie I'll get choked up, but in a 24-minute cartoon will I get choked up? Well, this one did. There's a moment toward the end that I could feel a little knot in my throat. I was like, what's going on? This shouldn't happen. Very powerful, very good episode. Yeah, I don't hear enough about this show online, and I'm worried that people, especially even Star Wars fans, are missing out on this. I hope they aren't, because this is really, really good.
Star Wars Reddit loves it. So
does it? Okay.
Yes.
There's been memes. I know the memes about, like, if you kill Wrecker, we're gonna riot. So I think it's out there. I think it's just not at least it's not people like, this is ruining Star Wars. At least it's not that kind of.
Yeah,
that's usually the stuff that rises to the top a lot of times.
Yeah, it doesn't have the hype of the Mandalorian,
That's
but
true.
I think the people, the Star Wars fans, are watching it and enjoying it.
I think so too. But yeah, like I think that's what I'm comparing it to is, when Mandalorian came out, and as soon as you knew there was a Baby Yoda, everybody was talking about it. We're not getting that, and that's unfair, I suppose, to compare it to that. But this show is wonderful, and we have a lot to talk about. But of course, we always invite Christopher to step in with his 10 Easter eggs that are in the episode, or more. It depends on how many. I mean, there's plenty.
You mean you take a laser gun to my head to make me do this? Is that what you're saying?
I guess it's fair.
If you want your cut, Chris.
Yeah, if you want a percentage of 0.
Okay, Sid. Yeah. So yeah, I came up with my top 10, possibly 11 things that stood out, like Easter eggs wise or otherwise. First, of course, we're now into Spoilerville.
Yes.
Full
spoilers.
The reveal of Rex, which is the famous Jedi masking that was started way back in New Hope with Obi-Wan, later in Luke, in the sequels.
I loved his little interaction with the what did you call him? The hammerhead guy too.
Yeah.
Is that right? Get out of my seat.
Yeah, which actually that'll tie into one of my top 10, because the part where the weak way, I think it's Weak Way, or anyway, those two guys are basically the Dr. Cornelius and Baba from New Hope, when those two guys came over to Luke, talking crap to him. So that's another scene that's sort of like that poetry that Lucas likes in his Star Wars storytelling.
Except they run, they're like, get out of my way.
Yeah, except nobody loses an arm this time. Also, when they go to the planet is Baraka, which, for those people who play video games, is the planet that Cal Kestis is in Jedi Fallen Order, where he's hiding. And so he's actually, I think he's maybe 13 at this time on that planet, so he could pop up, maybe.
He's been stuck in
an
escape pod for a couple of weeks now.
Yeah. Also, the guys that are riding the little skiff in the sky, that's the Scrapper Guild, which are the characters that Cal Kestis worked for on Braca. Rex's ship is actually a Y-wing starfighter, which is a precursor to the crappy Rebel ones that got destroyed on the Death Star.
It's also the same one that he escaped from in the season 7.
There you go. Probably one of my favorite moments is the monster that they encounter on Braca, which is the Dianoga, which is the first time we saw this character was in the trash compactor in A New Hope.
Yes.
Except we actually get to see what the underbelly of it, which looks a little bit very Sarlacc-y, but it's the eye part is somewhere in the water, I guess. So you get to see the alien butt hole or whatever that is.
What? No, it's a mouth, isn't it?
It could be both. I don't know.
Oh.
It's Star Wars. Aliens have different things.
No.
They say turtles can breathe through their butthole, so you never know.
Who says that? Is that real? Nobody
Look it
says
up.
that.
Mr. Wizard, I'll tell you.
What?
Cowabunga, dude.
Also, we now have canon that there's a food that's basically space popcorn with Mantell mix. So I'm sure we'll be seeing this in Galaxy's Edge at some point, where they can just throw some
I hope so.
candy on your popcorn.
It's gonna sell. It's gonna sell out as fast as Lucky Charms.
Called Mantell mix. Yeah, Mantell mix, because it's on Ord Mantell. And also, I think one of the cool things that I actually, when I looked at it several times, is I love Sid's place, because it's almost like an arcade. it's like a Star Wars version of arcade, and actually there's a digital display on the bar, and it's got Sabacc cards. So there's a digital version of the Sabacc card game on that bar. Also, we get actually they're the people that they're trying to get away with, the little lizard creature, are called the Rokai. That's the first time that has been in the Star Wars universe. So that was created for this specific series. As to what they are, we have no idea, but maybe they'll show up in some other element of Star Wars.
Potato bug.
So that's the what?
It's a potato bug.
It's a potato bug?
Roly poly.
Yeah, it looks like a pangolin. Have you seen those pangolins?
Well, you talking about the you talking
about a little pill bug, like
you talking about the lizard?
Yeah, the one that's because it rolls up.
Okay, you're talking about the lizard, but the people in the ships that were chasing after him, those are called the Rokai. I'm not talking about the lizard.
Oh, we were talking about the lizard.
Yeah, what's the lizard called?
I think she called him something, but I don't think they said what it was.
Oh, we don't care about the people. We want to know about the lizard.
Oh, you don't care about a new term that's created for this series, but we go for this weird ass lizard roly poly creature. Also, an extra thing is, I feel like we've seen a lot of references to aliens throughout this series. Whether it's the things that they get locked in, or there's even like when the roly poly thing grabs onto his face, it's very face huggerish. But I don't know about you guys, but when Omega is having to go against Wrecker, there's a part where she holds her gun. She looks like a little Ripley. I don't know if you guys noticed that.
Wow.
But anyway, those are the few things that I noticed. Did you have any extras, Slattman, or did that cover the ones?
That covered most of them.
Okay. Good.
Most of the important ones.
There you go.
Yes, definitely. Now we just got to find out what that potato bug is.
I don't really care.
The rats.
It's in somebody's stew now, so it doesn't even matter.
Might be
Yeah.
true.
I'm sure that at some point in the next 20 years, they'll come out with another creature compendium, and then you can just look it up there.
There we go.
It's probably a stuffed animal at Galaxy's Edge right now.
All right. Well, let's talk about Wrecker, because this show is, like you said, Wrecker centric. It's the chip thing that we've been worried about, because the headaches, even though we knew the headaches were chip related, they didn't seem to. We find out why, because they were under the impression, because of who they were, that the chips didn't affect them, not realizing that they did. And of course, Rex is really worried about that. And the more they pry, well, Wrecker's chip does go off, and we find out how formidable Wrecker truly is. He takes them all out, and it is, like you said, you're on the edge of your seat as the battle's going on, and it ends with him cornering Omega, and the look on her eyes. That's where I'm building up to that, because her and Wrecker, of course, have become very close, and one of the biggest things a child is that, fear is, being betrayed by an adult, right? And here it is, she's facing that. And they represented that and brought that to life in this animation wonderfully. And you felt it. You truly felt it.
Well, you could also see that Wrecker was really trying to fight against doing anything as well. Because if you notice, he really slows down when he's speaking right before he gets stunned. So yeah, I think I think that relationship between Wrecker and Omega is very strong. That it was kind of heartbreaking to sort of see that scenario play out where she's just a little kid and she's having to make these adult decisions that, to where she was about to kill her friend,
It kind of reminds me of in season 7 of Clone Wars, that moment where Rex hesitates when facing Ahsoka. Like it was that same look, that same I don't want to do this, but I have to thought process and look that Rex had, that Wrecker went through, and it was heartbreaking to see it.
Yeah. So apparently we've heard that phrase before, and maybe we talked about it earlier in episode 1 when what all soldiers, good soldiers follow orders, which I thought we just heard in this series or with Order 66, but apparently I saw that it the chip malfunctioned early on somebody and they said it first. Tell us about that, Slattman.
Well, that you pretty much nailed
summed it up, right? Okay.
There's a little more to it. A chip malfunctioned, and a member of the 501st shot and killed a Jedi in the middle of a battle, and they were the only one that did it, and it caused a whole conspiracy where the Kaminoans had to cover up the real reason why they were why the clone ended up they had to cover up the real reason why the clone turned on the Jedi, right? And one of the members of the 501st Fives, which was called out in this episode,
that's right,
found out the truth and tried to tell Anakin, actually did tell Anakin and Rex, but neither of them believed it at the time.
Which is referenced, like you said, straight up.
Yeah.
Call out. So hearing Wrecker say it was kind of frightening. And but Christopher G. Moore, they stunned him much like the stormtroopers stunned Leia at the beginning of Star Wars.
Yeah, initially I had that in my top 10 list. But yeah, it was kind of nice sort of seeing that that circular smoke ring thing fly at them. But yeah, I wanted to point out, like, when Wrecker switches, it's almost like Jason Voorhees to some degree. He's almost like a slasher character, and you realize how much power he has, and I think especially when he doesn't have his regular mentality allowing him to do what he needs to do, I think. And and I'm glad that they were able to get that chip out of him, because he could have been very detrimental to the whole team.
Yeah, it would have been rough. And I presume that everybody got, by the end of it, everybody got their chips out. But
yeah,
let's talk about Wrecker. Let's stay with Wrecker, because Wrecker, of course, they do subdue him finally, and they work to get the chip out. And the moment between Omega and Wrecker at this moment is quite emotional and quite strong. Vanessa, tell us, how did you feel during this time when Omega refuses to leave and pulls up the chair and sits beside Wrecker until he finally puts his hand on her head?
Oh, it's so sweet. That's they have a special connection because he's very childlike in many ways. So they have that connection probably more so than anybody else, right? We've noticed they've kind of buddied up with each other. So to see that, and it just shows too, he almost killed her, and she still loves him unconditionally. She still has some form of understanding, because she's becoming so wise and so knowledgeable and picking up on her own skills and everything. And it gave her that foresight to be able to say, no, I'm not going to leave his side until he wakes up. And of course, what happens after that brought us all to tears.
It did. It really
was. The popcorn moment.
Very strong, very strong. But we do find out Omega does not have a chip at all. Right? What does that mean?
Well, she was made under the radar of the Empire.
Yeah.
So I mean that the other clones were made for the Empire, so they were required to put those chips in them so they could have some ability of control at some point. And with her, they were just something that they're a little sort of test subject per se, to where they created her to sort of use as their next little thing without them knowing. And so, yeah. So I mean, that's a uniqueness of her. So she doesn't have that that thing that's going to hold her back at some point.
Right. Yeah, she's. I found that very interesting because was it the second episode they were saying, yeah, the what are they called? Well, we'll just call them the Loch Ness thingies, but the
Long neckians.
Long neckians. They
that's what I'm keep calling them.
They said they got to keep it a hush hush. And they having them running with them is a good thing. So
yeah. So I have a bit of a theory. I'm wondering. So if she does or doesn't turn out to be force sensitive, these clones were designed to fight for the Republic alongside Jedi, right? So what if she's like this prototype clone to work more closely with the Jedi? Be more sensitive, more in touch with certain things so as to work more closely with the Jedi, because we have yet to find out why she was created, right? Why she is a prototype, if they're actually looking for her again. I'm sure we're going to find that out soon. What is her purpose? What was her creation? Because she's definitely an amalgamation of all of our Bad Batch, it would appear, most of them at least, So I just wonder, because she does tend to lean into that more sensitivity, to be more perceptive towards things.
Yeah, definitely. They haven't out and out done it or said it yet, but they're leaning into it quite a bit. I think Christopher G. Moore is pretty much convinced, right? That
I'm convinced she's force sensitive until they come out and say it per se. And even if they say it, I'm not gonna believe it.
Yep.
In the same way, nobody believed that Darth Maul died, and
because he did
and how nobody believes that Rey's actually a Palpatine.
Yeah, no, that's not. They're gonna back on that. I tell you right now. Okay, so it ends with what did you call the guys on those skippers?
The Scrapper Guild.
Scrapper Guild. They basically discover the Bad Batch as they go back into these huge wrecks of starships, and they call the Empire. What's going to happen? Where are we going with that?
Crosshair.
Okay, there you go. That's what I wanted to hear. Is that going to be next episode? Are we calling it now?
Probably.
Yeah,
Probably. I mean,
Tarkin.
There's supposedly footage of a future episode that involves stormtroopers on Braca. So.
Ooh. So yeah, that would be his little gang, right? The four of them that are left.
Well, no, actually, real white stormtroopers,
like phasing out of the clone armor, and
yeah, I mean, there's footage of them.
Then they didn't wear. Oh, that's right, because they didn't wear the armor, the actual stormtrooper armor, did they? The
stormtrooper armor. And so in Legends, it took a couple years after the formation of the Empire for the stormtrooper armor to be widely adopted.
But it could start here, right?
It could start a couple weeks to a couple months after the formation of the Empire.
Yeah, because we know we have
phase 3 clone armor, if I may.
Yeah, wow. I hope we do see that, because I don't know, I love the classics.
I do and I don't, because that means it's coming, right? It already has happened. So, but it still gives me so much like anxiety. Even when I watch Anakin become Vader, I get so much anxiety. I'm like, please, no, Anakin, why?
What? Sorry, I had to do that. What about okay, there is a Jedi that's on the planet that could show up, but he's young, right? He's still very much a young
if he's
Padawan.
there.
If he's there.
He's there.
Yeah.
There.
Will we see him, or is that just wishful thinking?
That's I think that's wishful thinking, but it would make for a great cameo next episode. The thing I'm worried about is Cal is very much scarred from Order 66. If you've played Jedi Fallen Order, you know that. I'm afraid that he's going to attack the Bad Batch on sight if they do encounter him. So
That makes sense, right?
that would be an interesting conflict, but I don't know. I think it's a nice callback for world building, but it would be a really cool cameo if he showed up. But I have my doubts, especially if the Empire and Crosshair and all that's supposed to show up on Braca next episode.
Yeah, I think we might get a tiny cameo if we get one, but I feel like it would take away too much from our main story. So I think you're right. I think this might be all that we get.
Yep. Yeah, until they have to go back to Braca.
Well, but Rex didn't take away from.
Yeah, but Rex is a clone. And Cal Kestis is like a whole big thing. You know, like, so, I mean, so is Rex, but
that's true. There's a lot of people. It's like the Grogu of the video game universe.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, you know,
He's like, I need to have his lightsaber.
Yeah, even if he's young, I just feel like personally, they're gonna do whatever they've done. But I just feel like it would kind of take away a little bit from our main story.
Yep. All right. Well, I guess we're going to wrap this up. Let's give our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. But before we do, if you're still listening to this review, we want to thank you for hanging out with us. We hope you're enjoying not only this review, but many others that we have on the site. If you want to help us out, it's really easy to do. Hit the subscribe button or share with a friend, and we'd love to hear your comments down below. We also want to quickly thank our patrons over at Patreon, who without their support wouldn't be able to do not only Heroes and Droids, but Decades of Horror, Horror News Radio, and Gruesome Magazine. Let's do this. Final thoughts, score, and favorite scene, and we'll start with Slattman. I'm trying to grab you. There you are.
I love this episode. This episode has taken the last 6 episodes and really made every little bit count, and every little character development, every little moment, it all paid off in this episode. If we were going to do a mid-season finale and then a break, this would be the perfect episode to end on for before the little 2-month break, you know.
Wow, yeah.
Like it's so well done. It's so well done from the beginning of the introduction of Rex to the group to everybody embracing him because you know that they've worked together in season 7 of Clone Wars, actually. And even the little comment was like, I thought you didn't like Regs. We like this one.
That's right.
And just everything, the way that it was explained as to why the chips are so dangerous, even though they're not impacting the Bad Batch, to going to Braca, to just everything on that ship. It all paid off so well. It was also excellent. So well done. I'm gonna give this one a 5. I loved this. It's right up there with the first episode as my as like the what I consider the best of this season so far. And I loved it. I hope that everything after this just continues to build. And we've seen this with the last couple episodes, that it's slowly ramping up, slowly everything we've been watching has been becoming more important and becoming more and we're getting payoffs finally. So I think we're in that moment where everything's going to start to snowball, and everything is just gonna and it's all going to start to make sense. It's all going to click, and it's all just going to become the Star Wars that we know and love, even more so than it already is, because this was already a great Star Wars show before this episode. So I love it. Again, 5. And my favorite scene is the scene where Rex finds out that they still have their inhibitor chips.
Yes.
That was very impactful, very tense. And as someone who is a month to a couple months out from getting his own ship taken out and having to bury all of his brothers in the 501st because they all turned on him, to having to confront other people that he trusts, other clones that he trusts, just like he did with the other with the people he served with on the 501st, and his reflexes to grab for his blaster and just that, and the horror and the shock and the on his face, and how he almost like gets between them and Omega because he was afraid that they were gonna harm Omega at any point. Like that scene was just excellent.
It just floods all those season 7 feelings back into you. It's so intense.
Yeah,
And just to think all of the pain and suffering that Rex has gone through.
I know.
And to think that his first thought is, I'm about to go through it again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
With my friends all over again. Ugh, it's so sad.
All right, take the floor, Vanessa.
Well, yeah, I totally agree. It's just, this episode is intense, and it just brings all those memories, all those moments, all those fears that you have. The way that moment with Wrecker and Omega parallels Rex and Ahsoka so much, and what's happening, and then Rex coming to the rescue is just it's so well written and so well thought out, and just, it's treating the property with such respect as an overall story. And I agree. This is, again, one of my favorite episodes. Absolutely gets a 5 from me. There's just so much, such a rich episode. And some of the moments, again, you get that humor. Like I was talking with Chris about the hammerhead guy saying, "Hey, get out of my seat. You're in my seat." And then to them running out of the bar, trying to get away. Moments like that, it just feels so immersive as you're watching it. It just has a way to just put you into that universe. And I have 2 favorite moments, and I won't take the one that has probably the most popular of them all. But I will definitely take the reveal of Rex. I will take that one. That was an awesome moment. And how happy was I to see him, because he's going to help them and direct them and get those chips out of their heads. Once he found out, we know he's going to be the catalyst for that. So yeah, this episode, just a roller coaster, and clearly we're going to get checked back in with the Empire in the next episode now that they're being notified. So I just know, we all know it's going to be Crosshair and his team that he's training, right, against our Bad Batch at some point, and that's going to be really intense too. So they're just doing a great job.
Doing a great job.
Mm-hmm.
You gave us a score, right? It was 5.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so there you go, Christopher G. Moore. You're up next. Your final thoughts, your score, and favorite scene.
This episode is firing on full kyber crystals. It's
I like it.
This is not the Bad Batch. This is the best batch of the episodes that have been shown so far in the season. I love this episode. I think it's building to the point where you see the camaraderie between all of them, especially including Omega into the group. And I think that she's no longer I'm going to go do this and get us all in trouble. It's more like she's a very important part of this group. And there's just so many really great moments that work really well. Some really great action moments, some really suspenseful, scary moments. And some moments that are just very emotional that hit you straight to the heart. And I wasn't really expecting that with this series. I haven't really been that affected, I think, by stuff I've seen, even in the Clone Wars. But this really hit me. I think mainly because I like Wrecker, and I think his growing relationship with Omega is really showing his humanity and his heart, because he's always just more about he's like Wreck-It Ralph, like, where can I wreck it, And in this one you find out he's got his heart is as big as his build as a clone. So yeah, it gets a 5 out of 5, definitely for me. My, of course, all my moments are Wrecker, but I think this is probably my favorite moment, and probably will be my favorite moment throughout the series. Is when Wrecker apologizes.
Oh yes.
And they and then they get their little Mantel mix, their trademarked Star Wars popcorn,
Their tradition.
Yes.
that'll
I'm gonna
cost
cry.
you $20 in the park.
Put
But
on
yeah,
sit
that
tab.
That's going to, yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
that moment had me teary-eyed, because it was such a sweet moment, and it felt so heartfelt. And, and it's like, these are just animated characters, but
No.
you could see the heart come through just by their portrayal, the voice work, along with the animation. So that scene really, I've been an emotional wreck this week as it is. So that really hit me hard.
That gotcha, huh?
Got me. So that moment is so sweet and beautiful. And I take back all the mean stuff I said about Omega. In the earlier episodes. I do not think that the first episode is as good. That's my least favorite episode. So regardless of all the nice things you guys say, I refuse to take that back. But I will take back mean stuff I said about Omega. She is great. And it makes me really interested to see where they go in the 50 million episodes we have left.
Yes, we do. We're almost halfway. We're almost at 25 million. All right. So I of course I love this. It's the writing is fantastic. The animation is wonderful. The amount of emotion and body language and everything that they put into it is on point and really draws you in. This is a tight episode. It's really it's funny, it's scary, it's drama, it's action. It even has a monster and a great new planet to look at. There's well, for me, I haven't played the game, so I hadn't seen it before. But anyway, I thought this was a great episode, and I just want to D. Bradley Baker. Holy cow! Because here comes Rex, right? And we know we've seen Rex, we've heard Rex before, but we've been with, we're watching The Bad Batch, and we've been with them for the past few weeks, for 6-7 weeks. And now here he steps back in, and it's just like, bang, right? He's back into that character, and it's totally Rex. And he's all the voices except Omega for a good portion of this, right? And except for E. Perlman, I guess, as Sid. And each character has its own. It's just amazing the work he's doing, and I just want to point that out. That I'm sure you, Slattman, have been praising him for many times because he's played like an entire army of characters. But this, I think this episode really illustrates the strength of his voice acting. This particular episode, I loved it. It has many moments. I'll give it a 5. I was going to say 4.75 because I wanted to leave a 5 because I feel like there's a 5 coming, but I think this one deserves a 5 because it hit me. It really did. And I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting that at all from this. And my favorite moment, I'm going to go with when Rex wakes up and just puts his hand on her head, and the expression on her face was pretty amazing. And heartfelt. It was really strong.
Also, props to Michelle Ang, who voices Omega, who's a 37-year-old New Zealand actress, and I think she does really great job embodying that character.
Yeah, the accent helps.
Well, yeah, accents make everything better.
Yeah, that's true. All right, well, I can't wait for next week. And if you are watching this, we hope you're watching our Loki series of reviews as well. That also started this week, and it's on the channel, so check that out. And of course, we did Mandalorian before this, and we did the final season of Clone Wars as well, did we not? We did, right? I do remember that. That was a thing, right?
It was a thing.
And many more to come. All right. Slatman, Vanessa, Christopher, thank you so much for joining me. This was a lot of fun.
Always.
It was a wonderful, wonderful ride. So I can't wait to see what happens next.
Yeah. Speaking of rides, I'm wondering when this is going to show up in a park somewhere. Anyway,
What park would that be? Maybe somewhere you can buy space popcorn.
Space popcorn. What they call it? Mandel, right? Lord Mandel.
It's Howie Mandel mix.
Howie Mandel mix.
Yeah.
Mantel.
Mandel.
Mantel mix.
All right. Let's say good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Nice.